Good evening, this is Spirit Journey. I'm going to discuss another serious current issue that's happening in the world. I was on the internet and I found a video with Alex Jones. Alex Jones is a reporter and he recently posted there are two clips, and it's about the African slave trade that Muslims and Arabs are doing in Africa and are kidnapping blacks and selling them into the Middle East. So I want to show you two clips.
CNN this week. People for sale where lives are auctioned for $400. Men, women, and children. But never do they tell you in the whole article it's legal under Islamic law. Oh, no. Never. People for sale. Since Hillary came and helped bring down Libya and blow up its infrastructure, now Sub-Saharan Africans come in, mainly animist, some of them Christian, out of southern Sudan. And they say in the article, oh, they were kidnapped in southern Sudan by Muslims. It's all over the foreign press. It's all over the African press. The ongoing civil war for 30 years as the Muslims have invaded into Sudan and taken 90% of it. But that's why it's so frustrating. I mean, I turn on television. I walk into a restaurant. It's the family with the 12 kids and how bad Christians are. Christians, homeschoolers. But then I see on the news, oh, look, poor Sudanese. They're being sold into slavery. Oh, since Libya is a failed state. No discussion of Anderson Cooper, CNN, everyone cheerleading. Gaddafi, who'd been working with the U.S. for a decade, he'd invested all his money with us. He'd stopped being a terrorist. He built all this infrastructure. He was helping Africa. Obama double-crossed him, let him take over. Hillary went in and said, I came, I saw, he died. They ruined the country. And you've got people from all over southern Sudan, central Sudan, eastern Niger, Algeria, going up into Libya, being promised they can get to Europe, and instead they get sold into slavery by Muslims. Then they use the pain of the public seeing these poor people, and they go, oh, they're migrants. We've got to let more in, or they'll be put into slavery. They're coming up out of Central Africa and out of Eastern Africa because they got kidnapped in Islamic slave trade of Boko Haram that's gone all the way to the west into Nigeria and is threatening to take the entire country. There's a giant Islamic invasion that Obama and his cousin Odinga run out of Kenya. This is all on record. Muslim Brotherhood, all of it, out of Egypt. We say we, the U.S. under Obama, overthrew our allies in Egypt, and they blew up hundreds of churches and killed tens of thousands. But the very state that does all this helps the Islamicists run these massive operations and go in and kidnap black people from all over Africa as far south and west as Nigeria. And CNN has maps showing all of this. But does it tell you they're Muslims, they're Muslims, they're Muslims, they're Muslims? It's Muslims doing it. Libya, slave footage sparks outrage, BBC. And if you dig deep enough, you'll finally find ISIS, but remember, Obama told us ISIS is not Islam. Power is waning, but its child slave trade is booming. A Yazidi captive's tale, sold by ISIS as a sex slave. Some little girls as young as 5. ISIS captures 7,000 women and kids to sell them on social media as sex slaves. Meanwhile, here's what the children in the California torture house did to cope with the abuse. Okay, great. It's terrible. Mentally ill, crazy people that were doing this. Were they organized? Were they invading half of Africa? No. And fine, tell us they were Christians, okay? You got some bad so-called mentally ill people that call themselves Christians. They're not organized, taking over half the Middle East and other areas and backed by our government. That's the problem. And Trump comes in and ends that practice to a great extent. The CIA and others are still kind of halfway doing it. And they act like he is Adolf Hitler returned in the flesh.
You hear that?
We have reports like this one Shocking video shows migrants tortured in Libya. And every week I see new videos of women being sold at slave auctions up on the slave blocks and men being sold. And we've got videos that CNN, doesn't air. We've aired them. The military sent us of them chopping up the black men, and then the Muslim men, the Arabic men, making other ones eat it before they execute them, believing it will send them to hell. Now, these are people from Saharan Africa, but most of them aren't Muslims. And under the Quran, blacks are not seen as human. They're called horrible names in the Quran that I won't quote here, but it has to do with raisins and their heads. And then they get captured by the slavers, and they admit that in the piece, down in Sudan. They're mainly Christians out of Sudan that get harvested and grabbed, because the Christians only have a small area. They used to have all of Sudan, but they've been pushed all the way down into the south there. And the Muslims come in and harvest them, bring them up, and then sell them into slavery. And they say, this is a good young boy here. And he's like a 20-year-old man. He'll do good as a tractor in your date fields. And they get shipped all over the Muslim world because it's still legal in those countries. They have harems of slave women, and they have harems of slave men. And that's what an elitist Arab does, is he has black slaves. Okay? And so they're sold, and nowhere in these reports do they say Hillary helped overthrow Libya. Nowhere in these reports do they say Obama lured Gaddafi in to sell the country out and to let them invade and take over. Nowhere do they point out, this is, I came, we saw, he died. No. Nowhere in the London Telegraph or even the International Business Times will they point out that it's Muslims selling men, women, and children, including little girls, into sex slavery. See, that's too much. They won't even show you that on the news. But it's in some of the newspapers. One report was a little girl was raped by over 100 men until she died. But see, they show you the men. And they do this to confuse people because they call it migrants. So Europe will then take in the men. But you look at the videos, they're almost all Arab military-age men invading, 80% according to Interpol. So what they do is they bring in the Muslims, they let them take over the radical jihadis, they enslave the Africans, they sell them into slavery at all different levels. Some of them have their organs taken and are killed. Others are put on slave plantations. Others are sold into sex slavery. And then they only show, CNN's very precise in their operations. Remember, they backed the Arab Spring. They backed the takeover of Libya that caused this. Anderson Cooper, the blood's all in his hands, celebrating it, saying how great it was in Egypt as well. So how the shake and bake works, how the formula works, where they come in, they destabilize, they then start the slave trade up again, which the Arabs taught Europe how to do, taught the Spanish others how to do. Because when we kicked the Muslims out of Spain, they didn't go far enough. They go, hey, slave trade, let's do this. They taught us how. It's all set up. And the transatlantic slave trade started 600 years ago once the Muslims were kicked out. So they taught us how. And then that's going on and unfolding. And then they go, oh my God, look at all these poor men. They're migrants. They're slaves in Libya, but never say it's Muslims. And a lot of them are Muslims. And then they bring them into Europe as poor babies, but they don't even bring in the guys that are actual slaves. They get sent off in boats the other direction towards the Middle East. They just bring across on the Zodiac boats paid for by Soros, the military-age men, to then invade Europe. So it's a great operation, works really well.
Wow. How wicked people are getting. They're getting more and more insane. And so you hear that people are being kidnapped, and not just blacks who are non-Muslim, but you also have children that are being enslaved all over the world. There is a slave trade even in the Americas. And I'm wondering what is making this resurgence of slavery. And I don't hear anything from the black Muslims in the United States, such as the Nation of Islam, in specific, Louis Farrakhan. But I did see that he has a video that is dated from last year about Islam and black slaves. But it's like this has been going on for a while, but I don't hear them in their teachings about about bringing more awareness about this maltreatment of non-Islamic blacks from Africa. I'm really sad about it, and it's really something. I'm actually uploading a video now that I did earlier that I'm trying to put on YouTube. It's going to take a while, maybe 2 hours, and it's entitled I'm sorry, let me get the name. It's about the sexploitation and targeting of blacks. And I did this video that was initiated for me to do this because of something I saw over the internet about these blacks who I feel that might be it just hinting of being exploited, and it just made me think about different things, and I wanted to share that. So here, I didn't even know about this new report, and again with Alex Jones, as you saw him turning through the pages, some of those headlines he read is from late last year, but some of them are dated this year. It's only January now, 2018. So I really want to, I feel like I need to do something. I'm very fortunate to live here in the United States. It's not a perfect place, but I know that if I were to live in other places in the world, I wouldn't fare well. And again, some places, if you're not of their religion, they can take you, they could rape you, they can sell you, as Alex Jones said. So I think what I really want to say is somehow that I hope this video brings more awareness. See, it's not like some of you who are watching this video might say, well, I'm not living in Africa. I'm not, it's not my fault. I'm not a Muslim. But in the United States, it's becoming a larger group, Islam, and in Europe. And as that religion says, if you're not of that faith system, and especially if you're black, that they can kidnap you and sell you into slavery. And they feel justified because they're following their religion. And so it can happen here. They get a stronghold, whether it be here in the US or in Europe, and they're downplaying it here about what someone's religion is when it comes to being Islamic. But here again, Alex Jones makes mention about the parents with those 13 children, and they stress about the media, about their being so-called Christian. They're just crazy people. And again, they weren't in a network, or I hope not. They were just being cruel individuals against their own flesh and blood. We have to really stop this global war against humanity and the enslavement of the indigenous people of this planet, the indigenous people all over the world. And perhaps it's just being hush-hush. Maybe it's happening in other places too. But right now, they're discussing about sub-Saharan Africa and how these groups are going further south, kidnapping these people, and it's like no one's doing anything. And remember a couple of years back, I think it was 2014, when this particular Boko Haram in northern Nigeria kidnapped several hundred women. And I haven't heard anything since. I don't even know whether these women have been returned. And a lot of these women were being sold. Isn't that something? How how someone, because of religion, could make you go crazy and do things. It has to stop. This also reminds me of something. It's a little bit off the topic, but it's again about how people identify themselves. And it was in the Cameroon. That's a country in West Africa. And Cameroon is primarily French speaking because it used to be a French colony. But also in Cameroon, you have a small minority of English speakers. Again, these people, both language groups, are African. They're black people. But now it's strife between the different language groupings. That one is trying to oppress the other. I believe that the majority French speakers are mistreating the English-speaking blacks that are in their country. Again, like you have a boundary. The boundaries of a country in Africa, it's man-made. And where the Europeans came in and put boundaries, that didn't set the boundaries of where the person lived. It just, whatever where the boundary was set and who controlled that particular region at the time, that's the language they speak. Or maybe they speak more than one language. But here they're fighting each other, and the English-speaking ones are trying to flee and enter into, I think it's Nigeria, which is primarily English-speaking country. So here, again, it doesn't matter what your so-called race is, language. And even in the United States, in New York City, if you don't speak their language, even though you may be of the same race, but if you don't speak their language, you're on their bad list and there's strife. I think it's so sad. We're becoming so paranoid and so hateful. And I start to feel angry myself and hateful also. And it's like, you don't know who to trust. You might say, oh, we're the same race, but boom, you may not be of their language grouping. Or let's say the same race, but a different nationality. Or again, a different religion. And you could become prey to another group. Let's pray. Let's meditate and do a prayer of intent of promoting peace in this world. I think this is something I want to do. And just pray and ask for that this planet get its spiritual healing and we learn how to love one another. Let me know what you think. Let me know what we can do as a society here in the United States to end slavery in Africa, in the Middle East, in Asia, and in the United States and the rest of the Americas. Let's stop this inhumanity against one another. Again, what you put out is what you're going to receive. So if you don't want people to harm you or oppress you, don't do it to others. And also respect the planet and respect the lives of animals. So let me know again what you think, what's on your heart. You could write your comments below. Share this video with friends, family members, and to subscribe to my channel and to give me the thumbs up. Take care and be safe. Bye-bye. you.